Hey guys, today we're going to talk about how we document assemblies in Onshape. We're going to be using some construction blocks to practice how we can show the relationship between three assembled parts in Onshape. You won't have to create the part studios for this. We're going to take some pre-built models and we're going to put them together, and then we're going to document how they're supposed to fit together. So let's jump right in and see what it is that we're working on. Okay, so these are the files that we are going to be working on. I've created my own version of a copy of a document that you guys will have access to. The working document that we're going to be following is right here, and I want to point out a couple of important features in this drawing file. So first, we have a bill of materials here which shows the names and the part numbers of the document, or of the objects that we're putting together in this assembly. You can see that there are 3 parts here, and there's a quantity of 1 of each of them. We have an arch block, that's the green block. We have a tall rectangle block, that's yellow. And then we have the tall triangle block. So those are all listed in the bill of materials. The exploded view is the combination of these 3 symbols here. It shows how these objects are put together. You can see that this rectangular block sits on top of the arch block, and then the triangle by itself is kind of just sitting next to it. It's pulled off and up just to make sure that it's clear that these are 3 different parts. We also have a balloon call out on each of these objects to denote where they belong in the bill of materials. So you can see that object number 1 matches where the arch block is in our bill of materials. Over here on the left we have what looks like a very typical multi-view drawing, except it's an assembly. And there aren't very many dimensions here. The only dimensions that are listed here are the relationship between the parts. So all 3 of these are going to be using a fastened mate, but we do have a dimension right here that shows a spacing between where these edges would line up. The rectangular block is just pushed over a little bit. And I wanted to clarify, this dimension is actually incorrect. This is supposed to be 1/16 of an inch. On the other side of this, our right side view of these models, we have what we can see is the rectangular block is kind of offset from the back edge of the arch block there by 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back into our file. We are currently in a part studio, and when you open this file for the first time, you will see that we will start in a part studio. You don't need to make any changes here. You can see all 3 of our parts are listed, and all of the path, all the design path stuff is here, so don't mess with any of that. We're just going to jump over to assembly. Now, I have already put this together for the sake of keeping this video short, but I did want to show you what I did in order to make this. So I have 2 fastened mates here, and I also made the arch block anchored to the origin, which again, as you may remember, is one of the most important things that we want to do when we start working on an assembly. You want to take your primary part and anchor it to the origin. You can use your part manipulator tool to do that and move it over there. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you go back and watch that original assembly tutorial video and complete those tutorial assignments. Okay, so I fastened the arch block to the rectangular block, but I also added some offsets here. So if you look here, you can see our 3 dimensions. So we have an X dimension, a Y dimension, and a Z dimension, and that helps us to understand the directions that these measurements are moving. So in this drawing file, we have that gap here that's incorrectly listed as 1/8 of an inch, and you can see in our file here that I've added a 1/16 of an inch gap here, and it's rounding that to the nearest decimal, so that's 0.625, which rounds to 0.063 in the way it's displaying the numbers here. In the Y direction, I've also added an offset, and it's listed as 0.375. Of course, we know from our work with inches and fractional inches, 0.375 is 3/8. So you can just type in 3/8 and it will convert that to the decimal version, but that's how that block got there. And I mated this to the back right corner of the back of the arch block, and I did the same to the bottom right corner of this rectangular block. Okay. The fastened mate for the triangle block, I didn't do anything special. I just made it so that these kind of corners here made it up just flat. and it looks fine. So there's that. That's how your assembly goes together. So what we're going to do now is we are going to turn those into a drawing file. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to right click on my assembly tab and I'm going to click on create drawing of assembly 1. Now again, make sure that if you are in my class you are using our standard title block for the school. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the ANSI because I'm working in inches here, and I'm going to select 4 views and I'm going to click OK. Okay, so here is my drawing file, and there's a couple of things that I need to change. First, this view does not exist in the example that we're asked to create, so I'm going to delete that view from my drawing. The other thing is my scale doesn't match here. My other drawing file has a scale of 1:1. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to right click on Sheet Properties, and I'm going to change that scale from 1:2 to 1:1. Okay, I'm also going to scooch these guys over here because we know at some point we're going to add more stuff to this. So I'm going to put these fairly close to each other, and then I'm going to move my isometric view as close to above that right side view as I can. I'm also going to come in here and I'm going to add my view labels because those are helpful. So I'm going to add those here just so that we know which views we're looking at. And finally, I'm going to go into my isometric view and I'm going to click on Show Hide, and I'm going to show my shaded view. So there is my multi-view drawing. I need to add those measurements that we have in the other version, so I'm going to use the Dimension tool to do that, which is right here. You can also press D on your keyboard. I'm going to set it so that the distance between these 2 lines is listed. And I'm also going to do the same here for these 2 dimensions from here to here. Those are the 2 gaps that we were asked to show. I'm going to press Escape to get out of my Dimension tool, but I'm actually going to come back in here and I'm going to change this from inches to fractional inches. And you can see where the problem arose when I made the original diagram. When you switch it over from dimension inches to fractional inches, Onshape gets a little bit confused about what the number is supposed to be. So we can come down in here and we can manually change the dimension to what it's supposed to be, which is 1/16 of an inch. So just watch out for that. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing to this one. So this is 0.375. And we're going to change it over to fractional inches. And this one doesn't give any problems, so it's able to just correct that. I'm going to move this up a little bit to get my arrow outside of the shape because that breaks the rules. Alright, that looks much better. Okay, so the multi-view drawing side of our document is fine. The things that we need to add now is we need to add our bill of materials and we need to add our exploded view. To add your bill of materials, you just come up here to this menu and you click this icon, which is BOM table. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change this setting to the bottom right corner as my fixed corner, which just means that it allows me to place it based on that corner. And I'm just going to line that up down here with my title block. And I've already input this information for these files, but I will show you where they live so you can change them for your own for another project. So there's our bill of materials. We don't need to add anything there. We do need to add our exploded view. So to do that, we actually have to go back. We have to go back into our assembly, and there is actually a tool over on the right side of our assembly for exploded views. It's also where you can see the bill of materials table, and you could enter this information right here. So you can override these and put your own part numbers in if you want to. You can add the descriptions, which I just added the names from the part studios. That all goes in there. Okay, I'm going to go to exploded views, and this is the menu where we will see what all of our exploded views are. For this model, we don't have an exploded view yet, so I'm going to click on Add Exploded View. We're going to end up with 3 exploded view steps. We are going to move this rectangle block up, because that's what's in the original diagram. So I'm going to click on this shape, I get my part manipulator, and I'm going to drag it up. And I'm going to set that distance to 2 inches. My My goal here is that I want some of these dotted lines to show where my object has been moved from. So I'm going to click on green check to accept that movement. And then I'm going to do it again on my triangle, except this time I'm going to move it over to the left, and I'm going to move it -2 inches. I'm moving it -2 inches because it's moving to the left, which is negative in this reference frame. So I'll click green check to accept that, and then I'm going to move it one more time. I'm going to move it up this time, and I'm going to move it 2 inches as well. So now I have both of my objects that are not on the origin moved away from each other so that I can see where they go. And I'm currently stuck in explode mode, so if I want to get out of explode mode, I need to come back here and click on done. And my parts move back to where they're supposed to be, and you can see I have my exploded view steps here. Now, this next step is really critical. So I have created an exploded view. I need to go back to my drawing, and I need to update the document. I actually made some changes in my Assembly tab, and now I need to tell Onshape that I've done that. So we're going to click on Update here. And nothing will change in this part. But when we add the exploded view, if we hadn't clicked Update, there hadn't been an exploded view when we created the document. So Onshape wouldn't know that there's an exploded view. So we had to click Update in order to see it. So to add an exploded view here, we're just going to go in here and click on Insert View. And I'm going to come into the menu here. There's actually an option that says Explode. It's set to default. We want to select Explode 1 from that drop-down menu. And there's our exploded view. So I'm going to drop it in right there. You can see my 3 objects. But you may have noticed that this doesn't look exactly like the one that's in the diagram. We still need to add our balloons to this document. So that's pretty easy. We just come in here to this menu and we select Callout. And I'm just going to add callouts. Try to do it in kind of the middle of the sides here. So there's object number 2. There's object number 1. And there's object number 3. So we can clearly see what those objects are in our table. I don't need to change anything in this menu. I'm just going to click OK. Now my callouts match the items in my bill of materials. And there's only one more thing that we need to do here to this document. Two more things. We need to add a note to the bottom. So I'm just going to drop this down here. And our note needs to have some information about tolerances. So all tolerances are plus or minus 0.01 inches, and the parts are adhered with wood glue. So we're going to type that in here. All tolerances are plus or minus 0.01 inches. All parts assembled with wood glue. And we can change the scaling on this box in just a moment. So here's our box. I'm just going to drag this corner, and I'm going to bring it into the corner. There's our note. It matches what we're supposed to have. Parts adhered with wood glue. I think that's fine. The last thing I need to do is I need to update my title block. Now we have a standard title block for tech here, and so we're going to just change this part name. I'm going to call this Construction Blocks Assembly. This is drawing number 1, and this is the first time I've done this, so I'm going to click on revision 1. So that's all you need to do, and that's as much as we need to do today for documenting assemblies in Onshape. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you in the next video.